Welcome, everybody, to the Grueling Truth 2015 World Series Preview Show, brought to you by Gridiron Mo, a new interactive football app where you get to call what you think the offense or defense should do during a live NFL game and see what all other fans around the nation have called. Check out Gridiron Mo at www.gridironmo.com. I'm your host, Mike Goodpasser. Right now, I would like to welcome my co-host, Matt Andrews-Cabbage. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm doing great, Mike. And yourself?
Oh, I'm great because the Steelers lost and the 49ers lost. I can give you a hard time on the Pick'em show Tuesday night.
That sounds good.
We have a special guest tonight. We have a special guest tonight, Mr. Met, Joe Rodriguez. How you doing tonight, Joe?
Very well, thanks.
All right, so let's get started. 2015 World Series, the Kansas City Royals versus the New York Mets. What was your take on the playoffs as a whole, Joe?
Well, this whole season has been a real unexpected pleasure for me. I actually thought the Mets were a year away from playing relevant baseball in September, much less going to the playoffs and winning a series, and they've won two. It's been a real surprise for me. Those mid-season acquisitions just turned the whole team around, and the arms, they grew up in a hurry, so here we are.
All right, Matt.
A little bit surprising. I thought the Cardinals were going to go further than they did. The Mets definitely disposed of the Cubs quickly, a little faster than I thought. The Blue Jays just did not play well enough. I thought they were going to be a little bit more impressive, but the Royals they got their last year, so it shouldn't be a complete shock that they were able to get back. Some good series, a little bit different than I thought it would go, but two deserving teams.
Well, I think the great thing about this World Series, on one side you get the New York Mets, who are looking to win their first fall classic since 1986 when they beat the Boston Red Sox in a classic 7-game World Series, and before that beat the Houston Astros in a great 6-game series. On the other side, you get the Kansas City Royals, who are looking to win it all for the first time since 1985 when they get the Dinkinger call in Game 6 and then blew out the Cardinals in Game 7. So, I mean, what do you think the key is to this World Series, Joe?
Which team? There are different keys.
Just the key overall. I mean, what do you think? Do you think the home field advantage is a big difference?
No, I really don't. I think there are several keys. I think the two teams, each team has a real big strength. The one strength the Mets have is that starting pitching. Not only can they go 5 deep, they're deeper than any other team in the majors, I think. And the top 4 can go mid-90s and up on you, so they throw a lot of heat at you. But the Royals the challenge with the Royals is that their overall team speed. They, top to bottom, almost everyone runs on that team, and they put constant pressure on the opposition.
Now, you talked about the Mets a little bit there, Joe. If you look at the projected lineup, who do you think they'll use as the designated hitter in this series?
I think that's a really good question. If Juan Uribe is healthy and the reports are positive that he's making progress, I think he'll be the DH. He is a seasoned hitter. He's seen it all, and he's won 2 World Series. I would go there. I would go with Juan Uribe.
Do you think that they'll play Juan Lagares in center field in the first couple games just because of how big Kansas City's outfield is, and maybe you want your best defensive players there?
It depends on who's pitching. They really like Conforto in left field, although he hasn't done much in the postseason. And he's a better fielder than you think. He doesn't have a lot of speed, but he's very good with position, has a good arm. I would be in favor of Lagares in center. He's done well. He's seen Volquez and he's seen Cueto, so I would not be surprised if they go with Lagares in center field. But you make an excellent point about that Royals outfield. They need that, and having Cespedes in left field, there could be a DH right there. Conforto could be the DH against because the Royals are throwing righties.
Yeah, Matt, the Kansas City Royals. How bad do you think it will hurt them that when you get to games 3, 4, and 5, that Morales, who's one of their best hitters, will be forced to the bench because he's normally a DH?
Well, I was hoping you were just going to ask me what my key was. That's my key. I think when Morales goes
well, then I
to the
kind of
bench
asked
for
you
those
because you
3
got
games.
to tell me.
I think that's a huge loss for them. Now they get to use him for pinch hitting, but taking him out of the lineup, that's a big blow to their team. But that said, the Royals do have enough hitting that they should be able to still make it a series and still have a chance to win. But if I'm the Mets, all the Mets really have to do in this series, to me, is just steal one of the 2 games. And they should be in the driver's seat either to win it in 5 or to go back with a chance to win it in 6. I think it's going to be a big advantage.
Well, I know Joe wants a Game 5 because he's got tickets to Game 5, correct, Joe?
Yes, I do, and I'm eating peanut butter sandwiches for the next month, but yes, I have tickets to Game 5.
Just a month? Me and Matt buy World Series tickets. We'd probably be starving and homeless.
I actually did a StubHub check for Kansas City, and the tickets in Kansas City are literally half of what they are at Citi Field in New York City.
Well, it's the Midwest. You got more normal people.
Yes.
Well, you get less of them, too. Plus, they were in the World Series last year, which brings me to my next question, Matt. What do you think the difference is? The Kansas City Royals actually played in Game 7 of the World Series last year, where I don't think if there's any Mets, there's not too many of them that have been in a situation like this. Do you think that affects the outcome, and on which way is the advantage?
I do think the Royals do have a slight advantage in the experience department. I don't think you can really underemphasize experience in big games like that. That will help Kansas City. I just think the Royals' best, or the Mets' best chance is to make sure that it doesn't go real long. If it does go 7 games, I would give the advantage to Kansas City. But like Joe said, they've got the really deep pitching, and the real key to beating Kansas City is you got to get a couple more runs going into the 7th inning, because what really kills most opponents are the 3 pitchers on the back end for the Royals. They're almost lights out all the time. But I think experience.
Before we get to that, I mean, Matt, was the rotation, I assume, for the Mets is Harvey, DeGrom, Syndergaard, and Matz. Is that what you hear?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
So with the projected Royals rotation, we got Volquez going in Game 1 from what I hear. Have either one of you heard who's going in Game 2?
Ned Yost has
Cueto,
not announced it yet.
I would think it'd be Cueto, right?
Yost hasn't announced it.
I would think it would be Cueto, too. I know me and Joe were talking earlier, and he said that he heard that Cueto may be Game 3. But my only question there is Cueto has had some bad luck away from home in the postseason, where I think Game 3 this year against the Blue Jays, he totally imploded. And then you had the wild card playoff game when he was with the Cincinnati Reds, and he totally imploded against Pittsburgh Pirates. So I don't know. In your opinion, Matt, what do you think the rotation should be for the Blue Jays or the Royals?
The Royals. I think you got to go. I think if you got a guy who is struggling a little bit on the road, I think you got to put Cueto in Game 2. It's very important for Kansas City to go out to a 2-0 lead if they want to have a real shot at this series. The Mets are very good, and I think they have to win those first 2 games at home. They're going to be a little short when they go on the road for 3 games, and if they can, anytime you can get in a 2-3-2 series, getting that 2-0 is huge. So I think you'd have to go Cueto. I think that would be the best decision, but I'm not the manager.
And Joe, on the Harvey DeGrom Game 1 and 2, do you think that's because Syndergaard has been a lot better at home this year?
I think that's a big reason. I also think they didn't go with DeGrom in Game 1 because he needed a little extra rest. He was the real workhorse, 3-0 with like a 1.8 ERA in this postseason. He's been unbelievable, and he hasn't had his best up at every game. But he's the one pitcher, the one starter, even more than Harvey and Syndergaard, that if he doesn't have his best stuff, he will battle you big time. He's a joy to watch.
Well, and I think the big thing for the Mets is just to get somebody other than Daniel Murphy hitting the ball. As a team, they batted, I think, .235 in the postseason so far. but I can't see a guy like Cespedes to stay in the kind of slump he's in. Next thing I'm going to ask you about, and I'll give my answer first, which would be potential X factors for the teams, which for me is the DH for the Mets, I think, should be Michael Conforto. Had really great during the regular season, was in a slump like most of the Mets outside of Murphy. My other big X factor for the Mets, I think, is Jonathan Nees. He's the only lefty reliever the Mets have used this postseason, and I think you're going to see his share of the action increase in the World Series. What do you think about what I just said, plus what you think the potential X factors for the Mets will be, Joe?
Excellent point about Nees. Nees is the only lefty, and he was surprisingly effective. I did want to touch on something before I answer what you said, Mike, that Matt had alluded to, that if the series goes long, that it would be the Mets would be at a disadvantage. I don't totally agree with that. I'll tell you why. That Dodgers series was as intense as any first-round series I've ever seen, and the Mets went to L.A., and they were down, and they won Game 5. So it can't get much more intense than that. I understand it's the World Series as opposed to a 5-game playoff, but it was really, really intense, and they were going against a big-time pitcher. So I don't think they'll be totally in awe of the moment. But back to you were saying, Mike, I think Conforto would be an excellent choice as a DH. He makes a lot of contact, doesn't strike out a lot, and while he's a solid left fielder, Cespedes is a very good left fielder, and Lagares is a great center fielder. And in Kansas City with that outfield, you need to have the legs out there and the arms.
All right, we'll go with the Royals now, potential X factors. We'll give that to Matt. To me, there, as we said, and I think Matt's going to agree at least on the first one because it sounded like he did, and that would be Morales as a DH. And I think the biggest X factor, and I think what's going to decide this series, is which version of Johnny Cueto shows up. He's been mostly lousy as a Royal, posting a 4.76 ERA in a regular season, fell flat in two of his three postseason starts. What do you think, Matt? Potential X factors for the Royals?
Oh, definitely is Morales. That's why I think getting those first two wins, taking advantage of the time that you have him in the lineup the most is really big. He's, obviously, we did talk about it already. He will be quite a pinch-hitting weapon for Yost. But, like you said, I think Cueto is really big too. Getting good Johnny Cueto is going to be very big. He's the kind of pitcher that he can dominate, but he can be Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. So I think you've got to play him game 2 and get the most out of both of these guys at home, and then just do your best on the road to try to get that series back to Kansas City.
Yeah, and I think another key is how Royals hitters face these Mets pitchers. I mean, if there's one thing New York pitchers can do is bring the heat. Matt Harvey, Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Steven Matz all live in the mid to upper 90s with their fastball, and the same goes for their stud closer, Familia. But while the said heat gave the Mets an advantage over the Dodgers and Cubs, I think Kansas City presents a different challenge. Royal hitters ranked first in batting average, second slugging percentage, and had the lowest strikeout rate against 95-plus mile-per-hour fastballs in 2015. What do you think about that matchup, Joe?
Well, I don't think the Royals have faced anyone like this Mets rotation. This Mets rotation is really deep, and while they may have fared well against pitchers who have pitched 95 and up, they're going to see it every night. So it remains to be seen how they do against that.
All right, so let's do this now. You want to give us a prediction, Matt?
Yeah, I think the Mets will win this in 6, possibly in 5.
All right, Joe.
Well, I agree with Matt, and I'll tell you why. The Casey's bullpen is tremendous, but I think what's going to be the determining factor in this series are, believe it or not, the Mets bats. I don't think the Royal starters match up well with the Mets at all. The Mets have a very good lineup, and I think they're going to put some runs up in this series where Casey's bullpen is not the factor that they want them to be. I think the Mets have a real good chance of knocking these starters out in the 5th inning or so. So I do like the Mets. I do like the Mets in 6.
All right. Well, my prediction is this. I'm going to go a little bit different. I'm going to go with the Royals in 6. I like the home field advantage here. The other thing is Kansas City is a hard out. I mean, if it wasn't for Madison Bumgarner's superhuman effort in the World Series last year, we'd be talking about them going for back-to-back championships. So I'm going to go with the Royals, so we'll be split. I guess it's a split decision, like boxing. So now my next question is this. We're not going to wrap it up just yet. All right? I know I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan. Love the Cincinnati Bengals. Know what it's like. Joe, I know you're going to a World Series game because it's your dream to go to a World Series game. You want to just reflect a little bit? Do you remember the first time you ever went to a Mets game?
Yes, it was. It's funny you asked that question. It was the summer of 1968. It was the San Francisco Giants against the Mets. The Giants won 13-3, and I wasn't even so thrilled to see the Mets. I was thrilled to see Willie Mays, McCovey, and Juan Marichal. So I remember Willie Mays threw Bud Harrelson out at home. I remember marveling at Marichal's high kick. It was a thrill for me, and we were in standing room because the Mets at that time drew very well. So that was the first game I went to, 1968, summer of 1968.
All right. What's your favorite Mets team of all time?
My favorite Mets team of all time, that's a good question. It's not the 86 team, believe it or not. My favorite Met team of all time may have been the 88 team that lost to the Dodgers in the League Championship Series. I thought that was the best Met team I've ever seen, top to bottom.
All right. Now, Matt, since we're talking baseball, do you remember your first Brewer moment?
I do. It's 1984. Being at County Stadium was pretty cool since my dad used to go there and cover the Brewers. I heard a lot about it, and I used to listen to the Brewers a lot on the radio. I was 7 years old when I got to my first game, and Robin Yount hit a home run to right field. So that was pretty cool.
1984. Me and Joe were already on retirement, I think. So I'll tell you, the thing I remember about going to my first game more than anything is just when you walk out and can actually see the field for the first time.
Yeah.
I know my first game would have been, I think it was 1976, the Reds against the Cubs. To go out and smell that plastic grass at Riverfront Stadium was just a thrill. I don't even know if at the moment I even realized it wasn't real grass. But I remember George Foster hit a red seat home run, I think to right field, and the Reds beat the Cubs 3-2. But so, you got any final words on this World Series, Matt?
I do think it's going to be a good series. I do think that there is potential for a 7-game series because if this game does go back to Kansas City, Kansas City is hard to beat at home. I do want to clarify. I definitely didn't want to imply that I thought that the Mets would be at a huge disadvantage. I just thought if I had to give an advantage, I think I would give it to Kansas City just for the experience level. But, everything, I agree with everything Joe said about this team. It's a good Mets team. Kansas City is good at home. There's potential this could go long, but I really think that the Mets have a really good chance to not just win Game 2, but they could win Game 1 as well. And if they were to win both games at Kansas City, then this could be a 4 or 5 game series. I think it's very possible. All
right, Joe, Mr. Met.
The Royals really concern me with their lineup, the tenaciousness. They never give up. They never give away any at-bats. They put a lot of pressure on you with that speed. If they make a lot of contact, this is a potential key that could hit the Achilles heel of the Mets, which is their middle defense on the infield. Shortstop and second base is below average, and that's putting it charitably. If the Royals get their bats on the ball and they get a lot of ground balls up the middle, they could just nickel and dime the Mets to death. That is a real concern. But I really think the Mets are going to hit the Royals pitchers a lot. So where with the Dodgers and Mets we saw 3-1 games and 3-2 games, we may see some 8-5 games here because I think the Mets are going to hit them, and the Royals, if they keep up with what they've done all year with hitting pitchers who can throw 95 and up, we could see some high-scoring games. That'll be a surprise.
Yeah, my reason for picking the Royals is just the fact that they do hit these kind of pitchers well. They hit all kind of pitchers well. I think they had the highest batting average in the playoffs, but the Mets had, I think, the lowest batting average. But they also had the lowest ERA, where the Royals had the highest ERA. So I think it was a great matchup. I just think in the end, I'm going to go with the team that's been there before. Like I said, I think the Royals will win the World Series. But
I also think
I hope
you have
the
to
Mets
consider
do for
that
Joe's sake.
you have to consider also who the Mets have faced. They faced 4 tremendous pitchers, and there's no one on the Royals even close to Greinke, Kershaw, Arrieta, or Lester. No one close to them.
Yeah, but the one thing about the Dodgers, Joe, is as a team, it's just like when you force a fifth and deciding game against a team that has failed a lot in the playoffs, I think there's a lot of pressure on them where there was no pressure on the Mets. Because I know that we did the American League and National League preview shows, and there was actually people that were posted on the Facebook page when I said that I thought the Mets would beat the Dodgers, and you said that you thought the Cubs would play either the Dodgers or Mets in the playoffs, that they said they turned it off as soon as I picked the Mets to win that series. So, I mean, the Mets got no respect, I don't think, anywhere outside of New York, and probably more than half of New York probably didn't get any respect either because they're Yankee fans, and you know how Yankee fans are. But, hey, everybody check out the Grueling Truth Facebook page. Check us out on Twitter. We will have the Pick'em Show on Wednesday with Leon Searcy, myself, Matt Andrew Scavage, and Dexter Carter said he may come on this Tuesday night, Joe. Or Matt.
Yeah,
so
I asked him.
Yeah,
I did talk to him last week about coming on. So yeah, I hope he's able to join us. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, I talked to him about it on Friday, and he said he was interested in doing it. He just had to make sure he was free. Rest of the shows this week, we'll have the boxing show with myself and Dave Sidersky. We will have the 49ers show. You got any guests this week?
We may be getting former 49er Mike Schumann this week. We're also looking at the 49ers Pro Football Focus beat writer Jeff Deeney, maybe coming on this week or for sure next week. But we're probably looking at doing a draft preview in the next coming weeks because there's not much left of this season. But, you know,
awesome.
It's sometimes you have seasons like this, so you just move on.
If y'all could draft an owner, I think you'd be all right. But and then also we'll have the Cincinnati Bengals weekly show to preview the big Bengals-Steelers game this week. That'll be myself, former Cincinnati Bengal Joe Kelly. We got a special guest this week from the Super Bowl 23 Bengals, nose tackle David Grant. He's the guy that filled in for Tim Crumry when he broke his leg in the Super Bowl, played a great game. We'll also have a Pittsburgh Steeler point of view from former Pittsburgh Steeler All-Pro offensive lineman Leon Searcy. So make sure you check that out also. Plus, we may have a couple more shows coming up. That's why check out the Grueling Truth Facebook page. Go find us on Spreaker. Make sure you follow us on there. But for Matt Andrew Scavage, Joe Rodriguez, I'm Mike Goodpasser. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.